I think since late Phase 2, early Phase 3, some people have kind of questioned if the Marvel Cinematic Universe has become oversaturated. And it's easy to kind of look at Avengers Endgame and say, no, because look at how all of these singular movies factor in, but it is actually easy to question if you take out certain characters from Avengers Endgame, especially once you get to like the third act, how much really changes. So there is an argument to be made there. But for me, the ultimate signal of Marvel Cinematic Universe fatigue was Marvel's What If. And just a reminder, these videos are made possible by my supporters on this platform, so if you do want to support me, be sure to hit that big, beautiful subscribe button. And be sure to check out the Patreon link in the description below. After a year's hiatus in 2020 due to circumstances out of anyone's control, 2021 has been a year absolutely packed to the brim with Marvel projects. And I think the vast majority of them have managed to justify their own existence by being compelling stories. I think around Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and particularly around Loki, some cracks were starting to show, but they were still entertaining and compelling enough for me to say, okay, yeah, this was worth doing. Then we come over to Marvel's What If, which to me felt like, hey, look at these palette-swapped Avenger characters. You can buy their Funko Pops in all good toy stores. Now, I mean, come on now. Spider-Man wore Doctor Strange's cape for like, what, 3 seconds? And you can immortalize that moment in Hot Toys form for like, what, $200? The concept of What If is very much enter the multiverse. Small changes make big differences. And the majority of the episodes don't really do that. It's like one of those things where it's a show that's trying to be this creative sandbox with all of these ideas and characters, but at the same time it, for some reason, restricts itself into this framing device of small changes leading to big differences. And yeah, ultimately, it doesn't really work. I think ultimately the show should have been, instead of What If, it should have just been focused on other worlds where you could literally just reshuffle the power hierarchy however you wanted without having to rely on trying to keep to the logic of a small change making a big difference. Cut the Watcher, cut the continuity going between the episodes, get new guest writers in every time, and you could have something that's really fun, but like instead we got this. But okay, rant about the overall concept of What If aside, let's rank the 9 episodes that we did get. Now I'm gonna make one thing quite clear, this is just my opinion, you might disagree, but actually why do YouTubers have to make this disclaimer? It should be obvious, you guys aren't fucking babies, okay? Let's move along. In 9th place, and if you've watched my What If review series, this probably doesn't come as a great surprise, but it's What If T'Challa Became a Star-Lord, the 2nd episode. Now, actually, I do just quickly want to clarify one thing. I think a lot of people had me confused for like an anti-SJW channel when they saw my review of What If Black Panther Became a Star-Lord. And no, I think channels like that are run by fucking idiots who just don't have the balls to admit what they actually are. Racist. And also, I think the emotions were high because of circumstances surrounding this episode. This would be the final time Chadwick Boseman would play Black Panther in a leading role in a Marvel Studios project. So I understand that people are going to be naturally quite defensive over this episode. Let me make one thing clear. I love Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther. I thought he was absolutely fantastic. I thought it was one of the best things about Captain America Civil War. Infinity War, I loved his standalone movie. I'm a fan of this character in these movies. I don't know much about him from the comics, but I really do love the King T'Challa character in the MCU. And my biggest gripe with this episode overall is the fact that it doesn't feel like an honest portrayal of King T'Challa's character. Now, King T'Challa is very much a diplomat. He's a very intelligent guy. He knows how to tap into people's humanity. He can bring out the best in people, and I think that's the best quality of his character and something that people absolutely love about him. And this episode really jumps onto that, but it does it in such an exaggerated way that King T'Challa ends up coming off as a little bit Gary Stewish, because in the Black Panther movie, there was quite a struggle for T'Challa to kind of get to these diplomatic conclusions, and his upbringing factored into that. In this, not only does he just do it effortlessly, not only can he, completely change Thanos' mind, which I still insist, cheapens the whole Infinity Saga. He also has an entirely different upbringing, so this still doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Also, considering Star-Lord was the name that Peter Quill's mother gave to him, it makes no sense for T'Challa to be a Star-Lord. It's full of stuff like that, just half-written ideas. As a piece of self-contained fiction, it's fine. Its connections to the MCU are its main detriment, and how it fits into that framing device, again, is a big detriment to the overall episode. And as a complaint, that is going to carry through to pretty much all of these episodes. Another gripe I have with this is it is very much implied that Thanos was still abusive towards Nebula, but they kind of cut that out after T'Challa's intervention with him. And the abusive history between these two characters is kind of played off for laughs, as Nebula's just like, ugh, Dad. Yeah, that doesn't sit right. But we're going to move on now to my number 8 pick, which is What If Thor Were an Only Child, episode 7. This episode was the definition of filler. So Odin never adopted Loki, which leads to the half-written idea that Thor became a party animal. They touch on why, but... So he comes to Vegas and brings a bunch of cosmic buddies and they party it up, and there is entertainment to be had from watching this big cosmic party going on in Las Vegas, as well as the Captain Marvel versus Thor fight. That's all pretty fun. Jane Foster's character in this is, again, completely, like, they've really bent her characterization to make this story happen. She's no longer this sort of straight-laced science lady, so much as she's now this sort of party college girl in a way. And it's like, okay, what's the Nexus event that led to that? It's just a bit of fluff, but it's so throwaway that it's like, yeah, it's just kind of here by default, really. In 7th place, we have What If Captain Carter Were the First Avenger, which is the first episode. And it gets the show off to a rather repetitive start, because not a lot actually changes between this and Captain America the First Avenger. It very much just feels like a character swap out. But then what do you do with Steve Rogers while he's off to the side? You make him Iron Man. I don't like that. Also, I did struggle with the pacing of this one a little bit. It was not the most entertaining. Overall, it's alright. In 6th place, What If the Watcher Broke His Oath, which is episode 9 and the season finale. And, the Guardians of the Multiverse, everybody. Palette swapped Avengers, buy them, they're in all good toy stores. So the first kind of issue with this episode is that Gamora and Iron Man are present from an episode that never got made due to COVID-19. And it is just disorienting to see them here, and it's kind of like, okay, obviously, you know, it can't be helped, they couldn't get the episode done, fair enough, but it doesn't change the fact that their inclusion here feels so strange. Could you not, like, cut them out of this episode if you knew you weren't going to get that episode made? It's not only that as well, there's like a large plot point featuring this thing that can destroy the Infinity Stones, and it's like, where did that come from? It's an episode that just kind of goes through the motions. They fight Ultron, they try this gimmick, that doesn't work, they try to get the Nazi leader of Hydra, Adam Zola, to fight him. Why the fuck did the Watcher recruit Eric Killmonger? Heck, why did the Watcher recruit most of these characters? Like, this is definitely not the most powerful or the most well-assembled team he could have come up with. The Ego versus Peter Quill plot that, you know, cliffhanger bookended What If T'Challa Were a Star-Lord, that completely gets thrown aside in the most unsatisfying way. The corrupted Doctor Strange gets a redemption story, but he doesn't need one. We've already got a Doctor Strange that's a hero. We don't need it. Like, I liked the fact that we had a Doctor Strange that lost his way, but now he gets a redemption. It's like, it was better the way you left it. After going absolutely nuts with the Infinity Stones in the previous episode, Ultron barely uses them here. Overall, this just bows the series out on a whimper. In 5th place, we have What If Zombies, the 5th episode, funny enough. This was probably the most anticipated episode, and it was quite disappointing. The idea of Vision taking in survivors and feeding them to a zombified Scarlet Witch is pretty cool, but that doesn't really come in until the 3rd act. And everything really just gets dropped without any proper resolution. And I get you want to end it on a cliffhanger, but you can still have kind of an ending to it, you know, but this just kind of fizzles out. It's also not helped by the fact that particularly in the first half, the comedy falls utterly flat and is very intrusive. And some of the character interactions are just weird, particularly like Bucky, when he kills the Falcon, is like, I should feel sad, but I don't. What the fuck? What was the thought process behind writing that line? But I guess to Spider-Man Circle Jerks, this is the best episode ever because Peter Parker mentions Uncle Ben in the MCU by name for the first time. In 4th place, What If Ultron won, the 8th and penultimate episode. The setup here is quite fun, and I like the sort of post-apocalyptic world that Natasha and Clint are stuck in, and I like that the Watcher wants to intervene, and then when Ultron meets peak power, he actually fights against the Watcher, he finds him. That's really cool. It's too bad that this episode absolutely speeds through all of these ideas at light speed because of its really short runtime. It is nice to see Ultron get the spotlight though, and he does get quite creative with what he does with the Infinity Stones. Another thing that really bothers me though is something that comes back from What If T'Challa became a Star-Lord. The cheapening of the character of Thanos. Ultron just kills Thanos in just the Vision body with only the Mind Stone in his head, and it's just another instance of, man, they couldn't have done that earlier. It kind of just makes it hard to take Thanos too seriously in the end. And I know there are reasons why they couldn't, but it all just amounts to feeling a bit insubstantial the way it's so easily handled here. In 3rd place, we have What If Killmonger rescued Tony Stark? I like the character between Killmonger and Tony, and I like being back in the world of Iron Man 1. It's a very different Marvel Cinematic Universe at that stage, and I think they recaptured the feeling of it quite well. I also like seeing more of who Tony could have gone on to be had he not become Iron Man. The rest of this, though, is kind of, in many ways, a retread of Killmonger's original plan in Black Panther. Except this time he does it earlier, he's a bit more equipped, he's got Iron Man drones with him. Iron Man drones which seem to not do any killing as soon as an important character is interacting with them. Seriously, the plot armor in this one is real. Not only that, but at the time when Killmonger rescues Tony Stark and grabs the missile and chucks it back, he doesn't have any powers yet, so he's effectively really risking his life so he can do this plan, and one slight mistake would have just killed him. I kind of don't buy that he would go to that extent to anyways. The character dynamics are good, the overall logistics of it not so good. Alright, now we get to the good episodes. Wait, hang on a minute, we're at number 2. Fuck. Okay, well, in 2nd place, we have What If Earth Lost Its Mightiest Heroes, the 3rd episode. And this is a huge step up. It's a big murder mystery in Phase 1 of the MCU, before the Avengers have even been assembled. During the time when Nick Fury is trying to assemble them, someone's interfering and killing all the Avengers. And what could this be? And the death scenes get really creative in places, particularly the Hulks. Behind it all is Hank Pym, who's become the Yellow Jacket after Hope Van Dyne has been killed. Everything here is believable, the world it takes place in, the characters. It actually feels like an accurate depiction of the MCU, except things have gone differently. That's what the rest of these episodes should have felt like. It's smartly written, it's well done, yeah, great episode. And in 1st place, we have What If Doctor Strange Lost His Heart Instead of His Hands, the 4th episode. Man, they were really on a streak between the 3rd and 4th episode, weren't they? Now, I will say this, the setup requires a little bit of mental gymnastics. In this continuity, Christine is just gonna fucking die, and it's a fixed point in time no matter what Doctor Strange tries to save her. And Doctor Strange really does try everything to rescue her. So he ends up destroying all kinds of mystical beings to become an all-powerful Sorcerer Supreme, but the result is that he destroys and consumes his own universe. That's insane. That's an awesome concept. And the imagery here is fantastic. It's got a few more mental gymnastics to it than the previous episode on this list. In that, especially, like, I did not remember Doctor Strange and Christine's dynamic being quite as romantic as it is here. There was a hint of it, but it definitely wasn't quite this passionate, I guess. But it's worthwhile just because of what it amounts to. Like, yeah, it's an instance where the ends justify the means, which is something that this show's really struggled with. But yeah, overall, great episode, great concept, great outcome, and I really love the dark ending. And just the whole thing of Doctor Strange becoming this monster. Just a great piece of alternate universe storytelling in the MCU, what can I say? So I just want to note, like, I believe that the global pandemic, the circumstance we're in, did have quite an impact on this show. Apparently, some stories had to end a lot sooner, and they wanted longer run times on some of them. But obviously, given the state the world's in, they kind of had to start, putting a stop block in there. So I want to make clear, I'm not pointing the finger of blame at anyone. I'm not saying, oh, the writers of this suck or anything like that. This is a completely impersonal video. Like, this is not aimed at anybody. This is just me reviewing the product we got in the end. Not the product they wanted to give us, not the product we should have gotten, not the product we would have gotten had there not been a fucking global pandemic, but just the product we got. That's all there is to it. So I really do want to acknowledge that there are definitely things that are out of the writers, producers, everyone's control. In the end, though, I didn't think Marvel's What If was particularly satisfying, and I think it could have just used a lot more time in the writer's room. And the idea just felt half-developed in the end. If all of the episodes were on the standard of what if Earth lost its mightiest heroes, and what if Doctor Strange lost his heart instead of his hands, they could have made it work, but just overall, it just kind of feels a bit like a toy commercial to me. But, you know, drop your rankings in the comments below. That would be much appreciated. And, fuck, I swear, ending videos is not actually very easy, is it? So what do you guys think? If you enjoyed this video and you want to support more like it, be sure to hit that big, beautiful subscribe button. And of course, in the description below are links to different social media feeds, including the Patreon. If you're feeling extra generous, like the following people, who are David 20 Covers, JK Strife, Marcus Ward, Sirius the Skeptic, Biotinarts, Mr. SP, Sergio, George is Lost, Legendary Ray Ray, Cheesemaster769, Adam Myers, and Fayalan Schwarzentraub. Thank you guys, you are the best of the best, but as for the rest of you, thank you so much for watching, guys, and have a great day.